right. Welcome, everyone, to our February 18th Coffee and EVs. This is our new time of the month, so we're starting on the third Thursday at 7 p.m. instead of the last, not Thursday, the third Tuesday of the month instead of the last Tuesday of the month. So we'll be using this date moving forward, and that's what will be sent out. So we've got a few folks online. I think some other folks won't be able to make it, but we'll have it recorded and put up on YouTube like usual. I'm looking at the names in attendance. Let's see. I see Elizabeth Hill. Elizabeth, have you been with us before? You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I actually emailed you in January of 2023 with a few questions, and you responded, and I bought my first Tesla a year ago,
All
and
right.
then it was totaled on Friday, so now I'm
Hello.
back in the market looking to make another purchase soon. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, welcome.
Our sympathies.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hopefully you get good insurance for it. So.
And I think Harold introduced himself right before we started the call. Harold's been on from, I think it was it the Cincinnati or Dayton?
Right, Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
And I've been on the calls before over the last 2 or 3 years, and I've been driving an EV since 2013.
All right. We're glad to have you with us again.
Thanks.
There's somebody joining. Oh, John Averill. Hey, John, welcome. We were just getting started.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, John.
Hey, John.
I don't have my sound in the right place here.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. John, you got some feedback going on, I think.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to get on my...
All right, well, I might mute you here for a second. You can... All right, there we go. All right, I'm going to share my screen here real quick. All right, is that coming through? Yeah, there it is. All right. We were just touching on this before we started the recording and got everything started up here. So as most folks know, there has been a lot of political happenings in Washington and changes that are coming and proposals to eliminate things like the electric vehicle tax credit, to actually charge EV owners additional fees at the federal level, or well, maybe not EV owners, but EV manufacturers, an additional fee at the federal level. And then, the NEVI charging funds being frozen. So we've seen a lot of things happening in the EV world, in addition to lots of other areas. But I sent this out a couple weeks ago. I forwarded it from Plug-in America. They have a nice way to, contact your representatives about supporting electric vehicles and expressing your opinion about some of these changes. So if you haven't reached out, I would encourage folks to use that Plug-in America email, or contact your senators and representatives, the federal representatives, directly, and make your thoughts known on your support of electric vehicles and those policies that we've had in place for the last several years. All right, and then that next article was kind of along those lines. Senators introduced bills to kill the EV tax credit and add a $1,000 tax on electric cars. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to be trying to push back against. And, it's not just the tax credit and, fees and things like that. It's, competitiveness in the world market with electric vehicles, and that we want American companies to be competitive in larger auto markets like China and in Europe. And also, we want American jobs in manufacturing here. There's so many new plants to manufacture batteries and electric vehicles being built in, across the country. I just one of the articles I've got here is let me go ahead and skip to that. Was General Motors was backing out on a battery plant and orders for batteries in Michigan, and now Toyota has stepped in to try to fill in that gap and order additional batteries, which I'm glad to see because Toyota has not really been the greatest player on the EV world that so far, but maybe they're starting to get a little more serious, and that would be great. So we need to be able to support these endeavors in the U.S., support American manufacturing, American jobs, and our competitiveness across the world in technology as it relates to electric vehicles. All right, so I'll leave it with that. Did anyone else have anything you want to add on that topic? Without getting too political, we don't want to do political.
Yeah, I did light up. This is kind of non-political, but some of you may have watched the video of the tape ribbon cutting at the Iona Rechargery in Apex. They had before they had a beta testing that got lots of videos. But in the interview, I think pretty sure with the Hyundai rep, they asked her, Tom Malogny said, what do you think this new administration? She said, this is a revolution in transportation. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. This is going to go no matter what. And we're going ahead. Iona's going to put 30,000 new plugs in the next 5 years. They put about 10 at each facility, so that's still about 1,000 places. But she said, and even remember, Robert, they told us at the meeting at Cross Lanes that NEVI was only going to be 10% of the chargers we needed. Well, EVgo and Iona and Electrify America, who I got an email from today, said they're going to jump right in that gap and put them where they're needed as well as where they're going to make money. And it shouldn't make any difference to lose the NEVI stations. I don't know if that's true, but I think that's a non-political way to look at it. This revolution is not political. It's not the right against the left.
No, and I think you're exactly right. That's a great point, Rick. I mean, NEVI and some of these other government initiatives certainly help like jumpstart things and get a kick on things going and get the numbers where we need them for vehicles, chicken and the egg kind of thing. We need those kinds of things to get things started, but it was always going to be the private sector that had to drive this long term. And so we'll look at companies like the efforts like Iona and Electrify America and EVgo, Tesla, and others to keep building out their charging networks. So it may be a bump in the road, but long term, yeah, it's not going to be a huge deal. I mean, it's inevitable at this point.
And the question's been raised and answered many times, whether you believe it or not, that did we really benefit from the $7,500 tax credit, or did that just mean that the manufacturers could increase their price by $7,500 and we knew we could get that off? So somebody who's not interested in or have an EV, like my wife, she's paying money in her taxes to give me a tax benefit. And even Musk said he was against tax credits. They need to live on their own, and the manufacturers need to be competitive. There's enough different manufacturers, over 50 now, making EVs, that the competition should bring the price down if they want to sell them.
And while I don't disagree with most of that, the only thing I will say along those lines is it's great to talk about let's have a level playing field. Well, let's have a level playing field across all energy industries, and that means the fossil fuel industry.
Oh, absolutely. The subsidies to the petroleum industry.
Subsidies and the what taxpayers spend, the taxpayer dollars that go into cleaning up oil and gas wells that are abandoned, the tax credits that companies get, like BP did when they had the big oil spill in the Gulf. Was it a $14 billion tax credit that they got for that to clean up that mess? It's like that's more than we're spending on electric vehicle chargers, and one tax credit to one company who had a massive disaster. It's like, get rid of that stuff. You want to level the playing field, make these companies pay to clean up their own messes and eliminate subsidies, and then let's talk about a level playing field.
And I've even seen the medical aspect brought in, that the difference in asthma, hospitalizations, and lung cancers alone would pay for every NEVI station.
Yeah.
If the savings, a relatively good prediction of the savings would pay that. And the amount of the infrastructure bill that went to NEVI was 0.2%.
Yeah.
I mean, it was piddling.
What I think is that that the tax credit was useful till the price of the cars start to drop because of increased manufacturing efficiencies and decreased cost of batteries. And the real driver that's going to be the home run for electric vehicles is this continued march downward in the price of batteries. And it's not going to stop. You know, there's an awful lot of room for improving the density, energy density, and the volumetric density of batteries until they're much, much cheaper, and also looking for newer, less expensive materials of construction. Like
and efficiency, you know, electric motor efficiency, HVAC efficiency, aerodynamic efficiencies, you know, all of those things that it's systematic. We need a system of components, including batteries. Batteries are the largest component, but we've got lots of things that we're doing innovation to increase range and make vehicles more efficient and travel longer. So yeah, I mean, those things are going to continue. I mean, and they have to. I mean, the Chinese aren't slowing down. When you look at the most competitive, largest auto market in the world, it's not here. It's China. And if you want to do business in China and have a chance, you better have your act together and be coming with your A game.
Volkswagen and Hyundai both decided to put plants in the United States, maybe partially in response to that tax credit.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: do any of you follow the Electric Viking? He had a great video that I would recommend. And there's a city in China that has a higher EV density than Norway. And he went into the reasons from it. And Robert, you'll get a kick. It wasn't no subsidies on EVs at all. They subsidized solar panels. And by people that knew they could drive for free if they had a solar panels, then that spilled over into a huge bloom of EVs. So they actually have a higher EV density than Norway does.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's Electric Viking. In fact, I pulled it up if anybody wants to see it.
Or just drop the link in the chat, Rick, and I'll send it out with the video.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Well, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. I did see, speaking of tax credits, that, you know, as Rick, I think, was just mentioning, or somebody was mentioning, one of the advantages or attractions of that tax credit was locating manufacturing here. To qualify for that tax credit, it wasn't just a tax credit to buy the vehicle. The tax credit had to meet certain criteria for construction of the vehicle and its components. And that was a way of onshoring back to America more of that manufacturing. So that was part of this. I mean, the initial $7,500 tax credit before the Inflation Reduction Act may have been generally $7,500, but the latest incarnation in that latest legislation was driven by American manufacturing for vehicles and components. So that was another benefit of that tax credit, locating and attracting more manufacturing to the U.S. Okay, well, I was glad to see the Hyundai and Kia are going to get that with their new plant in Georgia, but hopefully the tax credit lives on so that they can benefit from that by, you know, spending billions of dollars to build a new plant and hire a bunch of people, thousands of people in Georgia. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I don't think the tax credit is going to really affect that. I think the big thing that's going to happen, and they're going to still build those plants, is because of the tariffs. So they'll actually be American-made vehicles, so people will be more apt to buy them that wants to buy American-made, made by people in the United States. So
it's like, I think it was carrots and sticks. I mean, the credit was probably the more of the carrot, the tariff is of the stick.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So.
All right. On other electric vehicle news, I think Scout announced some more of their specifications on those new vehicles that they've announced. And they're looking at a 500-mile range on a couple of those using a range extender, of course. I think it's like 250, 300 miles battery plus, you know, whatever the range extender gets you. But that's optional. You don't have to have that on the vehicle. But for those who want a longer range without buying a larger battery, that's one way to do it. And also saw the Kia EV4, which is a new model that will slot in under the EV6. So like the Ioniq 5 and EV6 were, sisters from Kia and Hyundai. EV4, and I think there'll be a Hyundai equivalent model, will slot in slightly below those, so a little bit smaller model, but still had impressive range. I think it was like 300 miles is what they're projecting. That's the hatchback, which I think is the better looking. The sedan looks a little odd to me, but different taste for everybody. Not real crazy about that rear end, but any new electric vehicles and interesting tech is always welcome. All right. That's just a few things I wanted to throw out there just to get us started. I did have one other thing. We talked about this, the new charging stations on 77 that DC America got put in. So at Bluestone and at Beckley at the Tamarack. And I was just going through looking at some of the comments and, overwhelmingly, seeing lots of green check marks, lots of good comments about the chargers and that you don't need an app and you can just use your credit card and everything just worked and had a good UI on the system. So kudos to DC America and those folks getting those up and running, and a good speed and a very reasonable price too. It was 39 cents a kilowatt hour. I don't know. Has anyone in this group had a chance to use those?
Yeah, I've been there twice. What it does when you do the CSS, the NACS charger says not out of order or something on it. So, because only one or the other will work at the same time. But that confused me the first time, and I posted something a little confusing. But I posted some pictures on PlugShare there, yeah. Anyway, but it did work really well built, and just easy to use. Like I said, with the credit card, just tap the credit card and it worked right away.
Was it very busy when you were there?
There was a Prologue there from North Carolina. Was the only other vehicle I saw.
Okay, go ahead, Marty.
My wife has used it.
She won one of the Teslas. It worked pretty well.
Yeah, she used it on her Model Y. She kind of needed it, and she was driving, and she drove right past the Oak Hill station and said, "Oh, I don't have to turn around. No, I'll just go down to Tamarack." And it worked out great. So she got up to Fayette County, up to the Highlands, and needed to charge.
All right, awesome. Hey, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, right across the line, the state line in Covington, Virginia, is a soon-to-be Nevy station at the Love Travel Center. They already broke ground, so they should be there. It's on just past White Sulphur Springs in Covington, Virginia. I think it's called the Love's Travel Stop. So that would make it, if the Beckley and that one will really make it easy to get over that I-81 corridor.
There you go. That's great.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so I've been following Pilot, and I saw between Charleston and Huntington that the Pilot station, it's around Hurricane, I think, or Taze Valley. There's a Pilot station. They are slated to be getting the Pilot chargers.
They have timeline?
That's Nitro. It's right down from Walker Chevrolet, about a quarter of a mile, less than a quarter, 1/10 of a mile from Walker Chevrolet. Nitro.
I haven't seen anything on posted on where they've broken ground or anything. So I was wanted to bring it up in the meeting. Maybe some of our members could actually keep an eye on it.
I've stopped by there and they haven't broken ground, just like they haven't in Flatwoods at the Pilot up there. So neither one of them have, and they don't even have any. If you go in and talk to them, nobody knows anything. So it may be 2 years. I've said something to PlugShare the other day that they're confusing us by having all these, quote, coming soon, when if you talk to them, they say it's going to be at least another year before that's too soon to start posting it, unless the purpose is to keep somebody else from building one right next door. We're going to have one in 2 years from now. I don't know. What do y'all think?
Are you confusing Pilot with Travel Center of America? Travel Center of America has a station in Hurricane, and they've also are announcing charging stations at some of theirs. So I imagine that eventually both Travel Center of America and Pilot will have charging stations at all their truck stops. But
So,
it'll be a while.
as far as Travel Center of America, I haven't been able to find a map of their intended or listing of intended locations. I only know about the one for Pilot because of the gentleman I'm following on YouTube that does the charging for that.
Oh, the network architect?
Yes.
That's a good channel.
I wanted to say too, there's 2 more CSS chargers at Joe Holland, and they're back. You turn right at Susie's Diner there and go back to their service area for the Chevrolet and Volkswagen. There's 2 charge points in there that are operable, and I don't think they're on PlugShare yet.
No, when I called, they said they're not going to be public. They're going to be just for them. The 2 at the Joe Holland Hyundai will be public.
Yeah,
but the other 2 are not going to be public.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I used one, but they were servicing my car, so.
Yeah, that's allowed.
And on another charging issue, I noticed that the supercharger in Huntington was back up. I guess Sheets. I don't know if the Sheets construction work is done, but at least the superchargers are active.
I stopped by there last week, and it was all done and open.
Oh, is it open? Okay. Well, very good.
Nice man there. I said, "How long has this been open?" Last I looked, it was closed. He says, "I don't know. I'm from North Carolina and just traveling." Amazing. Whatever app they use, and he had his Tesla, and he was charging it.
All right, I'm going to stop presenting. All right, well, that was a few things. I was noticing some other folks joined us. Let's see here. We got Dr. Erica Harvey with us. Long time no hear.
Yeah, sorry, I've been busy with my move to Ohio. Finally starting to
make it okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Where are you in Ohio?
Hillsboro, so South Central.
Okay. Are you teaching now, or are you retired?
I retired, so I'm doing a bunch of work on grants if they continue. It's really nice.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. And we got Mr. Greg Ianello with us.
Hey.
Hey, Greg.
I'm driving home from my mom's right now, so
be careful.
Oh yeah. I'll just put it on autopilot when I get on the interstate.
We don't want any coffee and eat accidents here.
Yeah, no coffee and EV accident. No, we don't want that.
I just came back from Florida last week, and I got to use a V4 supercharger in the Orlando area. It was really nice.
Let's see who else we got. Linda Frame.
Hey everybody, it's good to see you. I'm kind of new to the group. I got my EV in September, so still figuring it out, but I love it. Taking it to Florida tomorrow if we can get on the roads with this storm coming. We'll see what happens.
All right, well, give us a trip report when you get back.
I will.
Tell me which one you bought. You told me before, I think. I can't remember.
I got the Model Y, and I did take it to Buffalo, New York back in October, and that went really well. So, yeah, my range anxiety is gone for now.
All right.
And I don't know
Now, you
about you
won't have
guys.
any as you go south.
What's that?
You won't have any going to Florida. There was so many Tesla superchargers. They're everywhere.
That's great.
And in North Carolina, it was only like, I think there was some of them that were only like 32 cents a kilowatt hour. Outside of Lake Norman, Monroeville, I think it was, or something like that.
Okay.
It's so much different. The first time I drove to Florida, I needed 4 superchargers, and that's all there was 4.
Wow.
So nowadays there must be 50.
Oh gosh, yeah, easily.
Wow. Yeah, and I'm really like, people will, like a guy today in the Kroger parking lot asked me how I like my Tesla. And usually the very first question people say is, how do you charge it? And I'm like, I plug it into a plug in my garage. And they just look at me like, oh, she probably doesn't know what she's talking about. So, yeah, it's really not that hard. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see. Did I catch everybody? I think so.
That would be an opportune time, Linda, to turn around, and if you've got that free trial again of FSD that they just released. So
I'm sorry, you probably have to say that like you're talking to somebody in like kindergarten, because I don't know what you just said.
So FSD is full self-driving. So Tesla
Okay.
has another release of it that's being put out now with updates where you get it for 30 days.
Okay, yeah, I've seen those offers and I did try it and it really freaked me out, so I didn't buy it or subscribe to it. But maybe it sounds like you're comfortable with it.
Yeah, I've been using it. Larry, you use it also, right, sir?
Yeah, I've been using it. I think it's great. It does make mistakes, but it does really good. Right now, it's not functional. I've got to take it in Monday and Columbus, and I don't know what they're going to do to it, but I'm only able to use the autopilot beta. The full self-driving doesn't work.
Well, Greg's using it right now, right, Greg?
What's that?
Greg's driving with it right now. Full self-driving.
All right. Well, I think we've went through everybody. Anybody got questions, comments, news articles they'd like to share? John, I think you got hand up.
Charging stations, 2 of them at Thornhill, the dealerships down in West Virginia, but they're $200 per hour. That's the real price. It's open to the public. It's on PlugShare, but it's $200 per hour. And so everyone says, don't ever, you'd be crazy to go there. Yet, and I wrote to PlugShare. I said, can't we get them off of there? That's clearly not helping any of the drivers to allow them to post it as a public station and say it's $200 an hour.
I've seen a few, nothing. I actually haven't seen one that bad, Rick, but I have seen several where you can basically tell they put it in for some reason to get a tax credit or PR or whatever, but now they don't want people to use it, so they just create obscene pricing or restrictions on it, so that it's like, yeah, it just needs to go away. If you or just mark it not public, it's not public if you don't want to use it.
These were mandated by the manufacturers, the Chevy and the whatever, the Thornhill Ford, I think, whatever it is, but they were mandated to put them in. They said we didn't want them, and they had to spend a lot of money, their own money, to bring the power down to put it in. It's not the cost of the unit; it's the cost of bringing the power down from the line.
Yeah.
I just wanted,
John Averill, I think
I just wanted to say that Shelley Moore Capito has been really supportive of green power in South Charleston that makes the electric school buses, and they've lost their funding now, temporarily anyway, but she's going to work to get it back. I think it might be worth us writing her and thank her for her support for it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is, I think we've got it, went through everybody. Any other questions, comments, news articles they'd like to share? John, I think you got hand up.
Well, Greg's using it right now, right, Greg?
and the jobs it provides. Of course, school bus drivers are like the most backwards as far as wanting electric buses. They're not there. They don't even want diesel. Some of them, my son's a bus driver, and he says these guys want to go back to gas motors in their buses. So what are you going to do?
All right. Well, thanks for that note, John. So yeah, if folks, as you're writing our representatives, you could definitely focus on Green Power Motors and mention that we appreciate their support for jobs in West Virginia and Green Power Motor.
John, where was their market? Was it going to be West Virginia schools, or were they going to be all of the Eastern United States?
It must be all over. It's got to be all over.
If you're getting federal money.
But I think they were granted some, had money so every county could get a bus if they wanted it. But some of them, I think, have turned down their buses.
That would have been state government. We had to write to state government, not to Shelley Moore Capito.
Well, no, the money's coming through the federal money. I think is.
I think it was part of the bipartisan infrastructure law.
Yeah.
I've taken a tour of that place. They're basically hand building buses. There's no assembly line. They charged an outrageous amount of money.
Oh, really?
I would hope that some of their competitors, like Bluebird and stuff like that, take up the mantle and build economically priced electric buses. But I don't know if they will or not. The Green Power has two factories, one in San Joaquin Valley in California, and the other one here in South Charleston. And they basically supply these very expensive buses to school districts who pay for them with federal subsidies. So I mean, they actually the chassis and stuff come from China, and the motor comes from Hungary or something like that. and then I'm not sure where the batteries came from. But they just assemble it there, and they actually build the sheet metal for the outside of the bus and paint them.
I saw one of those in Clay County the other day. I was driving through Clay County this past weekend. I was like, "There's the Green Power Motors bus right here in the middle of Clay County."
Most of the drivers seem to like them. From what I've heard, the guys actually driving them.
I mean, I think the electric buses and the electric delivery vehicles and all those, the drivers seem to love them. Larry Harris, I think you got your hand up.
Yeah, those would like to visit state parks. I passed by Hawks Nest a couple of weeks ago. It looked like they had all the components for their tram down to the river in the parking lot. So maybe that's coming soon, that they'll have you'll be able to go there and take a tram down to the river.
Larry, have you been out to check out that Frito-Lay or whoever it is that has all the electric delivery buses, trucks?
I went down there the other day. They've restricted their access to the area where the chargers are. So before, I just went down there and drove around the parking lot where the chargers were, but I couldn't. I think theoretically I could have driven in, but they did have a gate there.
All right, I see Eric has a question. Any of you have experience with using your EV as a battery storage option to pair with solar? I just got solar, but my cooperative charge is 13 cents kilowatt hour for everything I use from the grid. It only pays 8 cents. So I'm looking for ways to balance that out. I don't know if we've got anybody doing vehicle to home here. Some people have some vehicles that can do very little bit of vehicle to home.
I mean, even my Clarity, I think it's like 17.5 kilowatt hour battery. So that's way more than I would be getting with $20,000, $20,000 of battery if I bought it as just battery. So I was just curious.
But I mean, here's the thing though. It's like you've got energy and you've got power. So energy wise, yeah, an EV has a huge battery compared to like if you buy a standalone battery pack. I think the issue usually comes on the other side. It's with power. How much power can it supply? So like you get like a Hyundai Ioniq and a Kia EV6 both have that capability, but I think they're limited to like, I don't know, Rick, what is it, like 1,800 watts or something like that? Do you know off the top of your head?
Mine's 1,800 in my car.
1,800 watts, yeah. So 1.8 kilowatts is the amount of power that you could draw out of that battery. So it's basically just a little more than one regular household outlet. So that's the amount of power. So yeah, you could run a fridge with it. That'd be great. But if you want to connect it to your home and actually draw large amounts of power, it's not going to support anything. I mean,
I just want to stop wasting the excess generation because they're paying me so little for it. So I'm just thinking, like, I've even thought about like getting an electric resistive heater and heating water just to store energy. Anyway,
I did the power walls myself. Okay. I just did that, and part of the reason for that is, I mean, I wanted it to be able to supply enough power to run my house, and so I can run my house, and that means when a 4-ton heat pump kicks on, those batteries can run it, and the electric range and the hot water heater and all of it. So yeah, but there are trade-offs with all that stuff.
Okay, sorry, just curious.
No, that's great. No, great question. And I think we'll see more of that, more options available, and there are vehicles that can output more power. I think what the Ford Lightning can do, 10 kilowatts of power. So that that's something you can look at. I think the Cybertruck is also up around there. I think
9 Tesla Powerwalls is what its battery is equivalent to.
Yeah.
And so Ford and Tesla Cybertruck are the only vehicle-to-grid vehicles.
Well, the Chevy will do it too, right?
Silverado that way now?
I think the Silverado can do it too.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was going to suggest that you have a talk with Taylor Mills in our group. Erica, he could probably help maybe get you started maybe potentially on batteries for your solar to be able to store some of that excess grid power.
And there are lots of battery options that pair with solar, different cost levels and, sizes and all that. And the other thing about batteries with your solar is you can also then use it as backup power, and it's instantaneous, pretty much it's always there, whether your car's home or not, this thing can be working.
I was just trying to be cheap.
Yeah, I got you.
I saw a video today, for me, the first time, some of you may have seen it, specifically for Tesla owners. It's a vehicle to load adapter made by EVCon, and it plugs into your NACS port and pulls out 240 current, and you can go up to 5
kilowatts.
5 kilowatts, yeah, 5,000 watts. And
there are some batteries that are smaller than the Powerwall and less expensive. So you can have a 3 or a 5 kWh battery that was a lot cheaper.
I bought a couple of about like 2 kilowatt. Maybe like 2.5 kilowatt hours worth of something was on sale for Black Friday. So I figured, I could keep some things running if we did have a power outage.
Yeah.
And there's other considerations with it too, like what's the battery chemistry and how safe do you feel if you're going to have something in your home?
Yeah.
Like NMC versus LFP chemistries, and if it's something big enough, expensive enough, you want to add it to your homeowner's insurance, they're going to ask questions about that, and it might affect rates and things like that.
Is the LFP more likely to be safe? Because that's what I got.
Yes, the LFP is what you want.
Yeah, they don't. They can't. Very difficult to get an LFP battery in a condition where self-ignites.
But it has a lower power density, so it's better for stationary storage than it is for vehicle. But it's very good for vehicle, but you can't be putting a 150 kilowatt hour LFP battery in.
So the brand is not available here in West Virginia, but the brand that seems to be favored nowadays among the pundits is Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
Franklin
whole home, but you'll find it cost comparable to the Tesla Powerwall solution, and it's also LFP. It's a great solution, though. It's very nice. It has all the functions and features that you want, but yeah, it's not cheap either. That's the other side.
Right.
My mom and I are trying to learn how to just use lots of electricity during the day.
Well, if you can schedule things, anything you can put on timers and things.
Yeah, it's charging your car, for instance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't. Some I think dishwashers and things have like a delayed start and that kind of stuff.
Dishwashers, washer, dryer, yeah. But my geothermal is working great. If anybody else is interested in that, happy to talk to you about that.
Oh, cool.
Taylor was on here,
the whole ground-based geothermal stuff?
Yeah. Horizontal loop.
Cool.
I put it in a hot water heat pump. Hot water heat pump. To supply my hot water when my tank went bad. So that's a pretty good energy saver.
How long have you had that, Larry?
In a couple of years.
Okay. I've read about those. I just didn't know anyone who had one.
Is it?
Yeah, it just pulls, less than 200 watts or something.
I have one.
Oh, you got one too, Marty?
Yeah. It just took a 110 circuit. It was real easy. I replaced a gas heater with it.
Awesome. I've been thinking when mine goes out, that's what I've been thinking I want to get is one of those.
If my dryer would go out, I'd probably put in a heat pump dryer too.
So does it run off like your basement, the heat that's already in your basement? Is that what it is? I had one of those in my other house.
The hot water heat pump or the dryer? Yeah.
The heat pump
I got it in my basement, so a lot of the year you need to dehumidify in the basement anyway, so it pulls some moisture out of the air.
So your water gets hotter and your basement gets colder?
It did make my basement cold in the winter, so I was noticeably like, ooh.
When I had
it doesn't really do much. It's not that big a heat load. It doesn't really cool off your basement very much.
It was right at the base of the stairs, so you just go through this cold zone, right where it was pulling in.
Yeah, the cold bubble around it.
One caveat is you can't put it in a small room. It has to be in a larger room.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up taking the door off to my furnace room where the hot water heater is.
It was very efficient, though.
Hey, Rick, did you want to add something?
I was just going to say, changing the subject, before my Chevy Bolt did not have vehicle to load at all. And so I bought the pure sine wave inverter and fastened it to a board and put on the fuse and the heavy cables. And so I can fasten that to the 12-volt battery in my Bolt, and I could keep my Bolt running. And then I have a plug coming off of that with the 3 heads and then 3 extension cords that go to the furnace and to the refrigerator. Anyway, now that I have the Hyundai that I can get vehicle to load, that's for sale. So if anybody, instead of spending $450 for a sine wave inverter, if they want to get something cheap and be from a vehicle that they don't have V to L but want to be able to just keep their refrigerator running or their gas furnace running, it's perfect for those. I can pull enough off of that. So I added up everything. The whole price of the whole shebang is only about $600, which is saving you about $600. If you know, it has a car that doesn't have vehicle to load but wants to be able to, in an emergency, be able to keep the refrigerator cold.
So you hook it to the battery of your EV?
Yeah, hook it to the 12-volt battery.
The 12-volt.
Yeah. and then it gets continually recharged from the DC to DC converter from the big one, as long as the vehicle's in the utility mode. And so it always keeps it charging. And so until I can run the 60, well, I wouldn't run 60 kilowatt hours. It doesn't have any state. You have to turn it off when you get down low enough to go to the charger and get charged where there is electricity, and then come back home and run your house for. You can't run your house. Robert's right about that. You can run your refrigerator, TV and lights, and furnace. So those are the three things that I have all set up. I watched a video on how to adapt your furnace to be able to plug it into your car. And so all I do is I put in a switch and a box and an outlet and then a pigtail. So the furnace plugs into that outlet at the furnace. And then I just unplug that and plug it into the extension cord. And the furnace only needs the 120 to do the igniter and the fan. So it's a
gas furnace. Right.
But then in the winter, we've got heat, we've got refrigeration, and we've got lights and one TV.
That's
and
cool.
The internet and a modem and the internet. We do that.
Yeah, you got to have that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marty.
I'm hoping that we will have a face-to-face meetup somewhere between Charleston and Huntington sometime soon. Rick, you and Larry and I should plan on doing something like that. We haven't done one of those for a long time.
I looked at the weather for the last Saturday of this month, and it looked like it was not going to be good with the storm that's coming in this coming Thursday. So next Saturday may not, but maybe by the last Saturday in March, we could have one like a Panera where we did before. Not Panera. What was that?
It was Panera.
Yeah, it was Panera.
In Taze Valley.
Yeah, Taze Valley.
Yeah, I'd like to do that again.
I think it's a good idea.
I also want. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think that'd be great if you guys want to plan that up.
I was at the barber shop the other day, and there's a group which is called the West Virginia chapter of the 82nd Airborne, and they're having a car show with cars, trucks, motorcycles on May the 3rd, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And right in Barbersville, West Virginia. And I was wondering whether or not that might be something we might want to do. It's a $20 entry fee per car, and nobody wants to pay that. But I'm thinking if we could say, could you give us just like a block? We'll give you $40, but we could bring as many EVs and put them off on one side of the field and just use that as an EV demonstration. It's the 82nd Airborne Association car show, car, truck, and motorcycles. 10 trophies awarded for the best in show, the best Chevy, the best Ford, the best pickup truck, the best motorcycle, and the best project vehicle, whatever that means. But maybe we could talk them into having the best electric vehicle and then get a little bit of a cash prize. But I wouldn't do it if we have to pay $20 per vehicle. That's not going to be worth it. But if I can get them to give us a special deal, I'll get back through the Google group. I'll let everybody know about it. But it's May the 3rd.
Okay. Yeah, if they'll give us a group rate for that, then that's something we could look at doing.
Yeah, we don't need a prize.
That's exactly right. We're not saying we're not going to put ourselves in for the prize, but give us a group rate to bring because the EVs are coming from a distance. Although we have a lot more now. I see a lot more on 60 every day.
And for those who weren't in our last meeting, speaking of get-togethers, we're going to try to do something mid-year, hopefully maybe in the central part of the state as a statewide get-together. But that'll be probably more like June, July maybe timeframe, sometime in the summer. More details to come on that.
Is Taylor still here? Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that guy that stopped by with his Bolt. No, he's not here.
Oh, he's not on any longer.
He had a family event.
He joined for a few minutes, but he looks like he's dropped off.
I know. After I said he wasn't coming.
Yeah, it's like he just made John a liar. He just jumped right on.
I would like to mention, keep an eye out for BP Pulse. They're starting their rollout this year. They're doing a major corridor, 40 cities across the country. throughout the country, but hopefully that will turn around and it'll be expanded where we'll be covered with a few stations. They have partnered or are purchasing some of their charging stations from Tesla, so they'll be rebranded as BP Pulse.
Yeah, I think they did like a, I don't know, $100 million deal or something to buy equipment, something like that.
Yeah, they just had their opening. Forget where it was at. I just watched it the other day.
So some of you know that I occasionally like to spit into the wind and see what direction it goes. But on my 2-year free Electrify America on my Hyundai ran out this month. And so I got an email from them. Oh, sign up for this Plus program at $7 a month. You'll save a lot of money. And I wrote back to them and I said, yeah, I live in West Virginia. We don't have one station in West Virginia. Why don't you electrify West Virginia? And interestingly, I got an email back. I sent it on to Robert this afternoon.
I saw it, yeah.
So they said they're going to look into whether they can put some chargers in West Virginia, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, we've written to them multiple times, I think, and contacted them on social media, and it's never really had a great reception. But hey, maybe this time will be different.
Yeah, I went up to them face to face and down in Austin at Electrify Everything, whatever it was, and they said, "Well, we just can't come to West Virginia." They once put a station on their map in West Virginia is coming soon, and Kelly Bragg called them up and said, "Where are you going to put that?" And they took it off. So I don't think
we pushed this point before. It's not for West Virginia residents. It's for Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, Kentucky. They all have to, North Carolina, they have to go through here. And if you have to try to go all the way to Winchester to get back over to Philadelphia, I mean, to Pittsburgh, that's crazy.
I'm making a list. I'm trying to of places we could contact, contact sheets and stuff like that on websites. And I've got a half a dozen things. When I get it up to a few more, and I'm more sure about the contact points, I will publish it with Robert.
Yeah, we'll get that out, then let everybody start pinging and harassing these companies to bring something to West Virginia.
You got EVgo, you got Francis Energy, you got Iona. There's just a whole bunch of them. You know, we got the Turnpike covered now. One thing we might do is approach the Turnpike Commission and said, "Hey, I'm glad you put one in Tamarack. How about putting one at your northern end near Charleston?"
Yeah, I wonder how did they fund that at the Turnpike? Was that the Volkswagen money or what?
No, that was
tolls paid for the electric charging.
Yeah.
Did any?
Yeah, they.
Nobody ever used the Volkswagen money?
No, it went to the consultants, I think.
Well, the last we heard from WVDOT was that the Volkswagen settlement money that was apportioned for EV charging was sent or was going to be sent to Marshall and WVU.
A portion of it, not the whole thing. But yeah.
Well, they were only going to allocate like the smallest percentage they were allowed to get away with for EV charging, and that's what they were. And whatever that amount was, I think it was $500,000 or $600,000 though. They were going to split it and send it to Marshall and WVU. It was the last we heard.
Marshall University Sustainability bought an F-150 Lightning and didn't even ask or tell any of us. They just went in and did it. They're not spreading the word. I was getting on Amy. I said, "Oh, that's very interesting. You did that." And not that they have to ask our permission, but they didn't even let us know, "Hey, we have one."
We could put some PR out about it.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have that probably at their Earth Day celebration.
Yeah, okay.
They won't call it an EV.
Well, what gets me is this DC Power looks like a really good system, and it's made in West Virginia. And who's buying it? I don't know who's putting those in. We just have the two that I've seen on the Turnpike. And
I think DC America is making their living selling it elsewhere.
Oh, is that right?
Outside of West Virginia. I mean, they're
mostly for fleets.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they even made one that's portable, so it you move it with a forklift.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, that's the way they build the whole unit, and just have put the concrete pins in, bring it in, it's installed pretty much.
Yeah, well, they have one that they move it from truck to truck. So they've got a plug there for refrigeration, and they just bring this portable charge connection up to the refrigeration plug and plug it in and charge the car.
Mm-hmm.
And they move it with a forklift from truck to truck. It's pretty innovative.
Now, if anybody's seen the visitor center lately that's closed on I-77 between Beckley and Charleston, it's totally torn down now, except the gas pumps are still there. But the building, they just have a big old excavator there and yank the whole thing down. So I wonder if they're going to put plugs in there.
The charges at the other two places were being done as part of a renovation of the whole plaza, right?
Yeah.
So if they're doing this, but maybe they will have a charge.
Let's hope.
Let's hope.
Where is that between Charleston and Beckley?
It's on the northbound.
Yeah, it's on Paint Creek.
So it's near Paint Creek, yeah.
It's called the Morton Travel Plaza.
Morton?
So,
yes.
Who is this with name not available?
Hey, Marty. John Dixon.
Oh, John, hi.
I was on another Zoom call that started at 6:30. It was to be over at 7. It obviously finished very late. So I got in late, and I don't know why my name didn't come up. It doesn't matter. Good to see you all.
Good to see you, John.
Transplant to North Carolina, but I've been with you guys for a long time trying to get back.
All right. Well, we're actually right at 8. Any final words before we sign off?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Rural Reimagined, but we can wait till next time. It might still be around in a month.
All right.
So
go ahead.
You guys have got a slow DC charger there in Hinton now? Is it installed?
It's not installed. It's in the shed, and the county commission is they really balked at the bids for the only bid they got was Taylor to put it in. He wanted $25,000, and they really balked at that to install it. And now they had trouble finding the exact location they want to put it. So I don't know when it's ever going to come out of the shed. There's only one person out of the 3 county commissioners who's an EV advocate.
One of the reasons they said the new Tesla model, maybe called the Model 2, was going to be so cheap was the use of robotics, even more so than even the 3 of the Y. And now you're talking about the school buses being hand built. They're never going to be profitable unless they can get some automation and not. I know it's fewer jobs, but you're also not paying the health costs of the people. That half of your cost of every car is the health insurance premiums of the people that built it. And so we've got to either bring the medical costs down. There's only one way to do that, which is a word nobody likes. But the other thing is robots and automation of assembly.
Well, I'm going to say good night. It's great to see everybody again.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we had so many people here. Erica and everyone else, good evening.
Bye.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right. Thanks, everyone, for joining. We'll see you on March 18th as our next Coffee and EVs.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Always.